the Human Rights Council just decided to extend the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories, Ms. Francesca Albanese, which draws condemnation from United States. In that condemnation, it says it shows that UN wait a moment, let me just find the exact words. It made clear that United Nations tolerates anti-Semitic hatred, bias against Israel, and the legitimization of terrorism. Your response?
As you know, the Secretary General, for whom I'm speaking on behalf of, has no decision-making power in these appointments. It all belongs to the Human Rights Council. So as such, it's a decision of the Human Rights Council.
But does the UN tolerate anti-Semitism?
I think you know the answer to that question. No.
Okay, so on Gaza, Israeli Defense Minister Mr. Katz said that Israel will not allow any humanitarian aid entering Gaza. He said that there's no preparation are being made to bring supplies into the Strip, and the blockade was a way of putting pressure on Hamas. Is that a recognition? Is that an admission that Israel is now saying that we're weaponizing our humanitarian aid as a weapon?
I think, as we've said several times, we keep reiterating that humanitarian aid delivery arrangements must respect fully the humanitarian principles, and this is how we operate in Gaza and elsewhere around the world. And these principles are humanity, impartiality, independence, neutrality. So we really stick to these principles. And, I can use this opportunity to just reiterate that we call once again for the immediate restoration of the ceasefire. I think the notes that we read every day that talk about, even the note that I read just now that stated how food is running low, how medicine is running low, how every supplies essentially that help support human life and dignity in Gaza are running low. It's essential for us to keep pushing for the restoration of the ceasefire, for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. And we call, of course, once again, for unimpeded humanitarian access throughout the Gaza Strip.
May I have a follow-up?
You can have a follow-up.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, when I heard all those, what's the latest contact from the UN officials to at least a ministerial level officials of Israel? Is there any communication on that level now? Or
as you know, we have colleagues who are on the ground who have contacts.
No. I mean, at least with ministers, like, for example, the Minister of Defense or Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel.
So our colleagues who are on the ground, they do have contacts at various level on a daily basis.
And you convey the message to them?
I think these messages are conveyed pretty clearly. Yes. Yes. Yes, NPR.
Thank you. I have a question in regard to UNRWA. We know last year that the Biden administration, even with, had stopped making the voluntary contributions. I was wondering, what is the status of UNRWA's budget these days, and who has stepped in to pick up the slack?
I don't have an update on the exact numbers with you right now, but I think, contributions continue to come in from various sources. I believe that all their funding is available online, but I can get more granularity for you on this. Yes, and then Stefano.
Hi, my name is Ray. So I'm with 21st Century Business Herald, Guangdong, China. Hi, Stephanie. It's my first day here.
Welcome.
Yeah. So you just mentioned that the economic growth rate would drop down to 2.3%, which would put the world into probably a borderline recession. At the same time, U.S. President Donald Trump has framed tariff as a battle over access to American consumers. So does the UN view this approach as damaging to global economic cooperation, especially efforts to create a more balanced consumption and production patterns between developed and developing countries.
I think, let me just reiterate what the Secretary General has said on this topic many times. He said that nobody wins in trade wars. And, one other thing that was important in the note and in the report by UNCTAD is that they really highlight how the developing world is always paying a higher price for this. Turning to the situation in Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that hostilities across the Gaza Strip continue to take a devastating toll on civilians, causing further death, displacement, and destruction of critical infrastructure. Our humanitarian partners estimate that since March 18th, about 500,000 people have been newly displaced or uprooted once more. This is in addition to the hundreds of thousands of people repeatedly displaced prior to the ceasefire. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that tents are no longer available for distribution across Gaza. In the town of Bani Suhaila in Khan Yunis Governorate, for example, families who had recently been displaced received only modest quantities of blankets and tarpaulins. Last week, OCHA visited displacement sites in Khan Yunis. Most of the people there are living in overcrowded shelters and spoke about the lack of shelter, food, water, and medicine. Meanwhile, our humanitarian partners report a rise in acute malnutrition in the Strip. In March, the number of children who received supplementary feeding decreased by more than 2/3, according to our partners. Additionally, access constraints hinder the ability to resupply the hospitals with medical stocks, putting more patients at risk. Humanitarians are finding it increasingly difficult to operate as no aid has entered Gaza for now. We're now in the 7th week of this, and as military operations expand. Meanwhile, OCHA tells us that Israeli authorities continue to deny a planned coordinated mission. Today, only 2 out of 6 planned humanitarian movements that were coordinated with the Israeli authorities were facilitated. The remaining 4 were denied, including one mission to retrieve fuel from Rafah, which, as you can imagine, is urgently needed. Despite access restrictions and insecurity, aid organizations continue to try to assist the most vulnerable. Every day, community kitchens prepare more than 1 million meals for vulnerable people across Gaza. But these quantities are hardly sufficient, as most of the 2.1 million people there rely on humanitarian aid to access food. And just a reminder that under international humanitarian law, civilians, including aid workers and medical staff, as well as their facilities, must be respected and protected, and the essential needs of civilians must be met.